Ford's German union is predicting bankruptcy. They're saying that in spite of $5 billion, it's not enough, and that Ford in Europe is about to go under. This is a pretty major catastrophe for Ford. As I've said many times now, Ford sales in China are disappearing very, very quickly. And it's going to mean that this massive income stream Ford has been making from the rest of the world, Europe and China, which represent around, well, more than 60% of the global automotive industry, that's going to be gone within a couple of years. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Ford. I've mentioned a few times on the channel. I know you guys know this. I've said they're going to become an American-only company. Right now, they sell cars in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, many. I believe Ford actually sell cars in more than 80 countries around the world. But eventually, Ford will become pretty much an America-only company. And the key reason for that is the fact that Ford can't compete with these Chinese car companies. They simply can't. Because these Chinese car companies are making cars in China at a much lower price than Ford are. They're innovating faster than Ford are. And they're able to sell those cars in places where Ford are selling those cars, except for, obviously, Canada and the United States. I mean, have a look at Mexico's car market. It's already being transformed by the Chinese automotive industry. Here's the thing. Ford is already facing bankruptcy in Europe, even without the influx of Chinese electric cars that we're expecting to come. Even without all these new car factories that Chinese car manufacturers are going to be building in Europe and around Europe in order to serve the European car market, Ford is already on the brink. I mean, for one, we know some of BYD's factories are now, they're previously Ford factories. Union leaders at Ford's Germany-based business fear a huge risk of bankruptcy for the automaker's European operations, despite a $4.4 billion or around $5 billion US cash injection from Ford. Ford announced the capital injection on the 10th of March to address over-borrowing at its money-losing Ford Work unit. The automaker also said it will invest about 500,000 euros approximately over 4 years in a business improvement plan aimed at restoring profitability in Europe. That's Ford telling you they don't make any money in Europe, they lose money. The new funding commitment replaces an agreement that any losses at Ford's German subsidiary would be covered by its US-based parent in a deal that had been in place since 2006. Here's a big part of the problem for Ford. Europe is going electric, and they have to because of emissions rules and because of actual rules. 2035, there's no more internal combustion cars can be sold in Europe. Europe is going to be electric only, but within a few years' time, the majority of cars sold in Europe will be electric because of these emissions changes, emissions rules. The majority of the cars that Ford make in Europe are not electric. Very exclusive event here in Newcastle. Saturday, the 15th of March from 3 to 5 p.m. I'll be speaking here with just a couple of other speakers. Very small event. So you can meet me in person. You can actually have a look at my EV as well, the Xpeng G6. Test that out. I'll put a link in the description below to the event. I believe that the tickets will probably sell out very, very quickly. So if you're from Sydney, from Brisbane, from Newcastle, make sure you click on that link as quickly as possible to get in. I think there's only around 30 tickets left at this point in time. I'll put that link in the description and I'll see you there. So that's one of the key reasons why Ford is losing money. Even the electric cars they sell, they make a loss on those electric cars. This new funding commitment from Ford replaces an agreement that any losses at Ford's German subsidiary would be covered by its US-based parent in a deal that had been in place since 2006. In other words, Ford Europe is saying, well, you've got to keep us going. Come on, we signed an agreement with you. It's basically a contractual agreement that Ford Global will continue to run Ford Europe in spite of, as you can see, billions of dollars of losses. Ford Work runs the automaker's European passenger car business and its manufacturing operations in Germany and Spain. The loss of credit lines from Ford Motor Company means that the automaker has withdrawn its insolvency protection from its German business and increases the risk of insolvency. I see what happened. Guys, if you think this is wrong, this is a direct quote from Benjamin Grushka, the top union official at Ford. So Ford's union are saying Ford in Europe are going to go bankrupt, particularly Ford in Germany, where obviously the entire automotive industry is in major trouble. In principle, it is now possible that the German subsidiary could go bankrupt within the next few years if the situation does not improve. The mother has always been there for her daughter in the background, but that is over now, Grushka told Automotive News Europe. So they're saying, Ford are basically going, you know what, let's just let it go bankrupt. What's the point? We're losing money. Let it go bankrupt. We can basically get out of this situation and we'll continue to run our other profitable businesses in the United States and Canada. And as you can imagine, Ford are not making profit in China either. The end of the credit lines could lead to a concentration of Ford's money-losing activities in Europe in Ford Work GmbH. This would be similar to the concept of a bad bank. All risky and poorly performing business units are bundled into one company. This means, says Automotive News Europe, that a corporate headquarters can protect itself from the insolvency risk of its subsidiary, which is Ford Europe. So Ford are structuring this so that they can be protected when their European division goes bankrupt. Essentially, Ford themselves are admitting that this is inevitable. Ford Germany, or Ford Europe, has been losing money to high costs and weak demand. The business has 9 billion euros of debt and no way to pay that back. If Ford's passenger car sales in Europe remain weak, this deficit will continue to increase, putting huge pressure on Ford in Europe. Ford's share of Europe's passenger car market dropped to 3.3% last year from 4% in 2023. So, Ford's market share fell by 20% last year in Europe. 3.3% market share is very small when you consider the fact that Ford had 10% market share at its peak in Europe. Ford's new all-electric models, the Explorer and Capri crossovers, which are built in Cologne, have had a slow sales start. And really, I think Ford's not really known as an electric car brand in Europe. Explorer sales were 17,564 last year. Ford sold 1,920 units of the Ford Capri, basically nothing. What's really interesting about all of this is Ford are saying, their management are saying, actually, they're making these changes to their business. And they're saying, here you go. This change in status brings its German business in line with that of other Ford subsidiaries worldwide. In other words, other Ford subsidiaries around the world can go bankrupt and it won't have any effect on the parent company. They'll just cease to have any presence in that market. So once Ford goes bankrupt in Europe, Ford won't exist there anymore. It won't have any losses. We went bankrupt, whatever, we're protected. They'll do the same thing in China. We're protected, but they'll never be able to enter those places again. I mean, they can if they want to, but it would be almost impossible. So guys, let me know what your thoughts are here. As you can see, the concept of Ford going bankrupt in these areas seems highly likely considering the parent company now basically saying it's inevitable. And Ford said it will actually fire 4,000 staff in Europe on top of the 4,000 jobs it cut in 2023. So they're firing 4,000 2023, 2024, they're firing another 4,000. I'm going to guess they might fire another 4,000 this year. Yeah, the writing is most certainly on the wall for this once great global company.